The Aerospace Corporation has nearly 4,000 employees and an annual revenue of more than $850 million. And she's been at the Aerospace Corporation, I believe, for about 30 years. So she must have started when she was about 8, I think. Dr. Austin earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics from Franklin and Marshall College, master's degrees in systems engineering and mathematics from the University of Pittsburgh, and a doctorate in systems engineering from the University of Southern California, which is quite interesting. As some of you might know, I spent 13 years on the faculty of USC in Los Angeles, and it turns out that I was on the faculty at the time Dr. Austin was pursuing her graduate studies there, although I don't think we ever met. We also have some other interesting connections. I had spent a summer at one point while I was on the faculty as a summer faculty fellow at the Aerospace Corporation, working on some problems on the space shuttle modeling. And I ran into a very important mentor in my life, Dr. Eberhard Rechten. And I understand that he was also an important mentor in Dr. Austin's life and may have had something to do with her decision to go back to get a PhD. Dr. Austin has received numerous awards, including NASA's Exceptional Public Service Medal, the Air Force Meritorious Civilian Service Medal, and the Women in Aerospace Outstanding Achievement Award. She's a member of the Women in Technology International Hall of Fame and was recently named the 2009 Black Engineer of the Year. She was recently inducted into the National Academy of Engineering and is a fellow of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Dr. Austin, it's an honor to have you here today.
Good morning, President Miller. It's my pleasure to be here with you. I shared a story with your president. I came up this morning in a limo, and the driver, has lived all his life in Boston, and he knew about all the colleges in the area, and he said, the one thing I can tell you about the students at Olin is they're very, very smart, but they're very, very nice people. So I thought that was very high praise, and I wanted to share that with you because, he had absolutely, you should take a clap for that, yeah. It's my privilege truly to be here with you today, and your outstanding reputation is really known across the nation as being a place that's about the business of developing the engineer of the future. And I'm very excited about that because one of the challenges that I face as a CEO is attracting good talent. And if you've read anything about what's going on in the STEM challenges in the U.S., you know that that is a nationwide concern right now about where our future engineers and scientists are going to come from if we don't inspire our young people to pursue the correct academic foundation going forward so that they can be successful in engineering if they choose to pursue that. When I first met your president, the thing that impressed me about our interaction was how passionate he was about the college. You don't have to talk to him for very long to get a sense of the commitment and the excitement and the pride about what it is that you're doing here. So I had to come see for myself and get a little bit of that experience. What you've done is caused the nation to rethink engineering education, and you've started a global discussion about the future of engineering and what are the things that we need to be accomplishing. I believe engineering education gives each of us the opportunity to, no kidding, change the world. Great opportunity, but it comes with a huge responsibility as well. You have a unique opportunity being at Olin with its emphasis on teamwork and interdisciplinary format and developing all of your intelligences. What you take away from here will help you in all phases of life wherever you go. And too often, education is about individual accomplishment as opposed to what happens in the real world where the problems are very complex and ill-mannered and teamwork is always required. So I think you've got it exactly right. For the students, I can remember sitting where you're sitting today, and I wasn't quite 8 when I went to aerospace, so it has been a few years. But I know that, as I thought about my transition from college, I certainly did not know that I would end up being the CEO of a major corporation. I felt good about the educational experience that I had had, but I started from very humble beginnings. I grew up in New York City. My parents didn't have a lot, but not going to college was not an option for us. I mean, that just was not something that you would, say out loud, certainly, let alone think in our house. We didn't have a lot in terms of monetary things or economic value, but certainly there was a lot of support for achieving your goals, aiming high, and figuring out what you wanted to do with yourself. So that was, a real, I think, important key for me in the success that I have been able to achieve. I went to Franklin and Marshall College. I was there visiting yesterday in Lancaster, and I remember that when I went there, unlike the process that you all went through where you visited the campus, had a chance to look around, my parents pulled up in a U-Haul, pushed me out the back door and said, good luck to you, we've got to get the truck back, and drove back to New York. No campus tour, no virtual reality, very, very different time back then. So we were just fortunate to be able to go to college. Part of the process that I went through in my college experience was a discovery process. It was really learning, what I as an individual was made of and what was important to me in terms of my future and my values and how I wanted to live my life. It certainly wasn't a, VFR direct path. I started off, I looked at actuarial science as a potential career field, and after passing 2 exams, I realized that I was not cut out to, sit at a desk with the numbers and crunch out numbers for actuarial tables for the rest of my life, although it was certainly a great career opportunity for some. I did student teaching. I had a wonderful student teaching experience. The school was wonderful, the students were wonderful, and I thought I could probably withstand it about 3 months before I'd be stark raving mad, and so I figured out that wasn't a career option for me. I went to graduate school because one of my advisors at F&M had done a sabbatical there, and he says, you might think about a graduate program in applied math. And I said, well, that sounds like something I could get excited about. And so I did. And while I was there, to make some money, I was tutoring some engineering students. And I went down to the Career Center and discovered that, wait a minute, if I graduate, I'm going to make about $1,000 a week. When they graduate, they're going to make about $1,500 a week. I need to go find out more about this engineering thing. I'm missing something very important here. So it was a great, sort of aha moment for me. I didn't know any engineers. I'd never been exposed to any engineers. I was just pleased to learn that there was this whole field of engineering out there where you could actually solve problems that would have an impact on people's lives. And that was when I had the aha moment of, okay, I found out what I want to do, and really loved it from then on and had a great experience. After that, I had an opportunity to accept a position at Rockwell International in California. That's how I left Pennsylvania. It wasn't a hard decision. I know, students, you look at people who have achieved some goals in life and you say, oh, they must have had a very clear path on where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. My choice was very simple. I had a job offer in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I had a job offer in Anaheim, California, where there was Disneyland, beaches, sun, fun. So it took me, I think, less than 2 seconds to make that decision. But it was a decision that ended up not being as smooth as you might think. When I went to that position, I interviewed in April. They made me a job offer, and when I showed up in August to start work, they said, gee, we've got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is, we're going through a layoff, and so the department that offered you a job doesn't exist anymore. Those people are gone. The good news is we're going to honor the contract and put you in a different department and give you an opportunity to work. So that was great because I just moved cross country and I'd just gotten married and my husband had come with, thinking this was going to be a great fun time for us to spend a couple of years in California. But it was a difficult time in the sense that that industry went through a huge layoff. And so instead of getting a welcome mat and people saying, gee, why don't you come in and learn about this and get excited in that project and start to understand how we do business here, what I found instead was people saying, well, look, I can't show you how to do that because if you know how to do it and I know how to do it, they may lay me off. So that sort of made me think, maybe this engineering thing isn't really where I want to be. It really isn't what I want to do. And one of my colleagues said, don't judge every book by your experience here. Why don't you go and look at some other companies? And that's how I found the Aerospace Corporation. And it was a wonderful experience, but I was committed to only being there for 2, maybe 3 years, because I knew if I moved around a little bit, I could get some big raises and increase my salary. But a funny thing happened on the way. I had one interesting project after another, and miraculously, 30 years went by. And it has been a very wonderful experience, a very positive experience. It's been a learning experience, a growth experience for me. But what I liked about aerospace was just the feeling of, the only limit to what I could accomplish was what the limitations I put on myself. The potential was there and encouraged. People were very positive. They encouraged me to go back, as Rick mentioned. The president then encouraged me to go back and get a PhD. He said he thought it was really important for me to really achieve my potential to do that. So the moral of the story is when your mentor gives you advice, you got to listen very carefully and be willing to make the sacrifices to make that happen. So I wanted to share with you a video about the Aerospace Corporation, just by way of introduction to tell you a little bit about what we do, and then I'm going to get into the talk. So Mary, if you can help me out here and get the DVD going, that would be great.
There we go. Awesome. Great, thanks.
Great. Thank you. So what you've accomplished here at Olin is enormous, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. The best is yet to come, and there's quite a lot in front of you. You all own the digital age. Technically, you're very, very savvy, and at the same time, events like the Iraq War, our broken financial systems, and Bernie Madoff are all defining events in your lives. It would be easy to become pessimistic or discouraged in the face of such events, but these events, from my perspective, only call for more engagement, more courage, more optimism, not less. We're not defined by such events. We're defined by our response to those events, certainly, but we're truly defined by our character, and we're remembered for our achievements, what we actually accomplish. Your challenge will be to set your goals high and not be tempted by what looks like a fast and easy but unethical solution. As engineers, we're defined by doing the right things and getting things right. Getting it right is actually the focus of my talk today. And by getting it right, I don't mean achieving perfection. We can't get there. It's very rarely possible, especially when you're dealing in an imperfect world and a complex world, such as the world that we're currently living in. In my business, getting it right means working hard over time with the best and brightest, with the best discipline and proven techniques to achieve the desired results that make a huge difference for communities, companies, and citizens everywhere. Getting it right requires focus, purpose, drive, patience, discipline, a big heart, a big brain, and a great team. There are three important things when it comes to getting it right as an engineer. First, we need to get it right personally, but also at home with our families and in our communities, in our nation, and indeed in the world. We must incorporate this attitude and ethos into our daily life to be truly successful and to truly change the world. It has to be a part of who we are. Second, getting it right is more than just doing the right thing. It's a moral and ethical commitment we make to those around us, a pact that says we're going to do all we can, all the time, in order to reach necessary and important and meaningful goals that will improve things for many people, and do it in the right way. I'm in the aerospace business, and at Aerospace we support the successful launch of satellites into space and help them to keep orbiting safely and securely. In my role as CEO, I view getting it right as a guiding principle or navigation system for every decision, whether I'm in the boardroom, the control room, or the cafeteria. Ours is a very, very unforgiving business where every decision matters. Third, it's important to remember that there are no shortcuts or easy outs when you're talking about getting it right. If you're looking for instant results or instant gratification, I think you'd be disappointed. More often than not, getting it right is very, very hard. The easy button just doesn't exist. Sometimes, however, the pressure is really on and you absolutely have to get it right the first time because the consequences of failure are simply unacceptable. My company is supporting the launch of up to 20 satellites this year, and there's really no option for failure, or the cost is very high when we do. We have to get it right from moment one. There's no second chances, no do-overs in our line of work. So getting it right starts with each individual. It requires doing the right thing in the right way and recognition that there's no easy button. But I also have to tell you that there is no greater reward, no greater sense of accomplishment than when you do get it right. I'm constantly thinking of ways to communicate the importance of getting it right to everyone in our company. We're comprised of 4,000 employees. We've got 100,000 square feet of state-of-the-art laboratory space. We have offices in 10 locations across the nation. Our annual revenue is approaching $885 million a year. And in case you think being CEO is all that, I have 22 bosses, our board of trustees, So no matter where you go and what you do, you still have a boss. It isn't always easy, even though we have some of the smartest and most committed people you'll find anywhere in corporate America. More than half of our staff is our engineers and scientists, and 2/3 of them hold advanced degrees. So time and time again, I find myself turning to our company's 5 core values in order to make the key point about getting it right. These values have helped keep us successful as an enterprise on the ground and in the sky for nearly 50 years. So I have faith in them, my colleagues have faith in them, our customers and our industry partners depend on them. I will tell you that each of the 5 values, mission success, technical excellence, customer satisfaction, and commitment to people, objectivity, and integrity, maps directly back to getting it right. I believe that they have had a profound impact on what we deliver and how we deliver it to our customers. Our values are qualitatively rich. They're not just words. But everything we do is based on quantitative engineering analysis. I think that goes to show that while there's no mathematical equation or scientific formula for getting it right, it's not an undisciplined process or random by any stretch of the imagination. Let me be clear, I'm not against profits or wealth and promotions, but I do think they have to be earned in a responsible and thoughtful way. That we need to be accountable for the consequences of our actions, which means having a planning horizon beyond the next quarterly earnings report. So what can we do? What must be done? How can we get it right in a world that seems to temporarily have gone wrong? Well, from my perspective, it's about putting one step in the right direction after another. If we keep our heads down and our hearts open, if we work hard to get it right, we'll definitely move in the positive direction, even in the face of what seems like overwhelming odds. So you might ask yourself, if you were sitting where I am and had the opportunity to push the do-over button, what would you do differently? I've asked myself that. If knowing what I know now, I had the opportunity to go back to the beginning of my college life, what would I do differently? Really, it boils down to just a few things. The first is that I would try to do more. I try to experience more, and I think that the experience that you have here in Olin will allow you to do that in terms of the engagement that you have with teams and the opportunity to fully explore. The other thing is that you've got a wealth of talent surrounding you, not only in your peers, but also in the faculty and staff. So one of the things that I'd do differently is I would talk to people more. I'd interview everybody. I'd always be full of questions about how they made the decisions they made, the choices they made, the options that they didn't pursue, because there's opportunities to learn from all of that. And the third thing that I'd do more or do differently is I try to face the fears earlier and often. I think all of us, as we go through our careers, have decision points and challenges in front of us that sometimes we try to kick that can down the road or hope that somehow it's going to get addressed in another venue or by someone else. And it's a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to engage and learn and grow and be stretched by having the opportunity to take on something that's maybe not as comfortable as you might have liked. So with that perspective, I put together a short list of about 10 things that I think is really important for you as you think about where do you go from here in the future. The thing that I think certainly your parents and sponsors would say is it's important to think about getting a job. Okay, we understand that. But what I tell you to think about is think about the experiences that you want to gain, whether it's through work, whether it's through an internship, whether it's through a volunteer program, that the experience that you gain are things that teach you things. There's an opportunity to learn in all of those. But it's important as you involve yourself in these outside activities to make sure that you align yourself with organizations that are in line with your style and with your values. If you're a person that needs to be outdoors and needs to be interacting with people, Actuarial science is probably not a good career choice for you. But you need to think about those things as you try to figure out, how and where you're going to engage. The second thing is, I'd listen twice as much as I talk. There's opportunities to learn just by listening more and taking in the experiences of others. So one of the things that I've tried to do, certainly even today as a CEO, is not be tempted for people to say, well, you're the CEO, you must have the answer. And I say, no, let's talk about it. Let's get a wide variety of perspectives on these issues. Let's hear from anybody that might have a different perspective, because there's an opportunity to gain some insights that we wouldn't get otherwise. Third, I should think forward. I would say it's important to maintain a work-life balance. Far too often, I think we get into a mode where work becomes the end-all. And work is not the objective. Life is the objective. And having an impact in the world, I think, is a key part of the objective. But if you don't make it a priority to maintain that balance, you'll find that there are lots of missed opportunities there as well, whether it's engaging with friends, engaging with family. Those are important things to being a whole person. The next one on the list is to make sure that you vote. And I use the word vote generically. What I'm really saying is make sure that you're a contributing member of society, that you're participating in our society and in the decision-making processes that are going on around us. As trained engineers, you have a very, very special talent to look at problems from a perspective that I think applies a level of rigor that sometimes some of our politicians don't demonstrate. So I think that your voice is really, really important to determining what kind of society we have going forward. The next one is one of those lessons that you learn through life, which is to make peace, not war. And what I mean by that is you're going to get invited to lots of battles. You don't have to accept the invite all the time. You need to think about what your priorities are. You need to think about what your other opportunities are. You need to think about the opportunity cost to engage in a particular battle, whether it's something that's really important to you or something that really doesn't make a difference in terms of the decisions that you're making or the path that you're on. It's a lot easier to work with people if they have the sense that you're really looking for a win-win solution, not just to win. The next one is, I think it's important to figure out what you're passionate about. As I mentioned when I talked with President Miller, it was very clear what he was passionate about. And as you think about what you're going to do and what you're aiming at in the future, see what excites you. You're going to spend an awful lot of hours doing it. So it's important to feel like you've got an opportunity to do something that you love. Just to put that in context a little bit, if you graduate at age 21 and you work to age 65, you've got lots of opportunities to involve in different types of projects, different activities, whether it's through your work, through your volunteer, through your outside activities. And so you ought to, find out what your passion is and figure out and chart a course that allows you to engage with that passion. The next one is, I would thank mom and dad more. Now that's, close to heresy, I know, but as you move on in life, you'll recognize that they've made lots of sacrifices in order for you to be here. And I'm fully aware of the unique process here at Olin, but there's a lot of trade-offs and choices that parents make to support students. And it really is tremendous to take time and acknowledge people who have offered a hand of help or a word of support or encouragement. And it also helps you to reflect on those contributions to who you are. The next one is, it's important to think globally. We're all in this together. Sometimes when we think about space, people talk about, well, there's national security space, and there's commercial space, and there's civil space. And I hate to tell you, when you get up there, it's all space. It's all intermingled. When things go bump in the night, it's not just the national security assets that are bumping into each other, or just the commercial assets that are bumping into each other. It's all exposed and it's all there. So we need to think about our stewardship of our planet and our stewardship of space. We need to think about the decisions that we're making, the impact that they're going to have globally. What happens on one side of the world, is heard all around the world, as you can see every day as you listen to CNN and you're intimately involved in things that are happening on the other side of the globe. Well, the ninth one that I came up with was it's important to give back more than you receive. And that's an impossible thing to achieve from my perspective, because every time you give back, you get so much more in return. Every time you help someone else, you learn something in that process. You grow as a person. It changes who you are. So I think it's a worthy goal. I don't think it's achievable. The corollary to that is just leave things better than you found them. And I think as engineers, we can do that on a broader basis than lots of career fields. We can look for opportunities to make our world better, safer, happier, whatever is important to you, better than it is today. So I think that's a sort of unwritten objective that you ought to keep in your head. And last but not least, this was something that I really would not have anticipated as I started my career. When I finished my master's degree, I said, okay, I am done with school. I don't want to see the inside of a school. I don't want to even go to a PTA meeting. I'm just done. I'm finished. And it turns out that that's the wrong answer. It turns out that what you really need to do is make a commitment to continuous learning, because things are going to change, things are going to evolve. There'll be lots of new things that we get exposed to. I hate to tell you, when I went to school, there weren't Blackberries. It wasn't GPS, so you could find out where the next Starbucks was. And yet and still, there are lots of new things that we have available to us today that we didn't have then. The whole way in which we communicate, the way our houses operate, presume a whole different level of tech savvy that didn't exist when I went to school. And so I think, you've got to recognize that you're never going to be done learning. So while you're here, learn to learn and enjoy it, and look for opportunities to continue to learn. So in closing, I just want to say, I think the best is yet to come. This is a great experience. It's a wonderful opportunity that you have here. Challenging times do require courage and optimism, but you really are defined by the response that you take to those challenges, in the way that you engage with those challenges. I think we're all going to be remembered for the contributions that we make and the accomplishments. So, it really is important to execute. It's not enough to think about it. It really is to get the job done, and that's an important part of what we do. But I think a key part of that, underlying all of that, is that it's important to have a focus on getting it right and making the commitment and involving yourself to make sure that it gets done right. So with that, let me open the floor up to some questions. I think that many of you may have some questions you'd like to ask. I'd be glad to take those, but I want to thank you all for inviting me to come up and visit, get a chance to see this beautiful campus and interact with some of the students. Thank you.